And we are very happy that the level of engagement, the depth of understanding, and the passion with which we have seen your participation actually gives me confidence that we are actually making the steps that would change our nation. You remember, we committed ourselves that we are going to change the conversation in our nation. And I'm very happy that we have sat here for 2 days. And the conversation is a different conversation than from what we are used to in our political space. This conversation that we've had here for 2 days was a conversation not about us, the leaders, and the positions. The conversation we've had here is about the people and their issues, ordinary people and their issues. And I'm very happy that the conversation in Kenya is changing. And leaders are at the forefront in changing this conversation so that the conversation is not about the leaders and positions and their interest, that we have actually moved the conversation from that of identity, this community and that community. We have moved it to a conversation about interests of ordinary people, of farmers, of traders, of pastoralists. The conversation is about coconut and cashew nut and bananas and what we can do in those agricultural value chains to make more money for farmers so that we can get more taxes and we can get access better markets and be able to create more jobs through value addition, agro-processing, and manufacturing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the conversation of our lifetime. A conversation that is going to propel this country to the next level. For a long time, we have been hostages and prisoners of a conversation about tribes and positions. Today, we want to liberate ourselves and liberate our nation, to have a honest conversation about ordinary people and their issues and their businesses and their agriculture, so that we can truly emancipate our country from the shackles of poverty and underdevelopment. I am very passionate about this discussion because as Deputy President, I have had an opportunity to be at a pedestal where I can relate and understand what government can do if it has the right focus and if it has the correct perspective and if it is engaged with the issues that are priority to the citizenry. We can actually change our nation in our lifetime. The discussion we've had here about, number one, ensuring that the conversation changes, that the conversation is not about identities and communities, that the conversation is about interests of people, ordinary people, and their business, and their farming, and their issues. That is the conversation that's going to change our country. And let me say the following, that in this framework that we have provided, there is going to be a lot of input. that's going to be done by the economic team here, that the economic team and the leadership and the professional people in this coast region must now take this down so that it is not the top down, it is not the leaders, but it becomes the bottom up. It's about the people, their issues, and how we can get the people and their issues to begin to ascend the ladder of progress, working together. As you work on this economic team and economic model, and you've heard it from us that we want to share in the economic model that will change our country from being a top-down, leaders first, big business first, to bottom-up, people first, ordinary business first. As we work on that model, we must think about three things. Number one, we must think about how do we put money in people's pockets? How do we ensure that the millions who do not have a job, we have, using economic instruments and policy instruments, create deliberate government policy that creates jobs. So that if the housing program can give us 2 million jobs in Kenya, how many of those 2 million jobs will be at the coast? How do we put money in people's pockets using the agricultural value chains we have? Cashew nut, coconut, the whole agriculture sector, bananas, the pastoralists and their camels and cows and sheep and goats. How do we create the relevant value chains to make sure that we put money in people's pockets? How do we empower ordinary business so that where they are making 200 shillings, we can enable them to make 500 shillings? How do we create a financing model where ordinary people are not paying 2,000–3,000% interest for them to get access to financing? What government policy? How do we create a fund equivalent to CDF to ensure that we finance ordinary business at the grassroots? These are the discussions we need to have. And how do we build our savings so that instead of borrowing money from countries where they are saving, we provide the infrastructure and the culture and the necessary legal instruments for us to enhance and expand our savings, so that instead of borrowing from others, we can borrow from our own savings to finance our own development and begin the journey to reduce on borrowing that is threatening that are engaged in this meeting, and leaders at different categories that are engaged in this exercise of a new conversation in Kenya that is going to focus not on leaders and positions, but going to focus on ordinary people, their interests, their businesses, the agriculture that we are going to do, the agriculture in this region, and how we can develop the different value chains, make sure that markets are available, both local and foreign, so that we can expand the economy of our nation. I am particularly impressed that my economic team, led by David Ndi and his team, and the economic team that you have put together, seem to be reading from the same script. There is quite a lot of synergy that I have already witnessed, and therefore it means that going into the future, we should be able to achieve a lot more in a shorter time and be able to ready ourselves for how we are going to move this conversation into a charter. And I believe that that charter, I am prepared to sign a charter with the people of this coast region on what needs to be delivered on our economic growth. Because I intend to keep my word. I know there is a lot of misunderstanding, there is a lot of negative perception about politics. But I want to promise you that it is our duty, it is our responsibility as citizens of this nation to work together so that we can march our nation into the next level. So with those many remarks, I am truly grateful to both teams that have come together. We are now looking forward to the leadership and the professional teams from the coast region. We are looking now up to you to take this conversation to ordinary people, to the Mama Mboga